Anybody who has not realised that we are living in extremely strange times at the moment is either stupid or delusional or insane or has some vested interest in what's happening at present. The term anarchy is a term that is misused. It is a lot of those people who've got pink hair and facial hair and strange facial hair, earrings and rainbow t-shirts and all these kind of things, who have set themselves up in Portland and in Seattle to start, these free zones and all the rest of it. They're not anarchists. What they are Abrahamic cultural Marxists. Real anarchists realise that you have to make your own rules as much as you can. Okay, you have to obey the laws of the state. You can't go around murdering people. You can't go around stealing things. Or actually you can, but if you do those things, you'll face the criminal code. That's fair enough. But real anarchists understand that the notion of expecting the state or expecting this big organisation or somebody else to come along effectively like a messiah to rescue you from whatever may be happening in your life or to provide you with a better life is never going to happen. In that way, it has great similarities with paganism, because one of the core features of genuine paganism is a realization that there's no messiah. Paganism, it's interesting to see how people will come up with rules of paganism. They're usually just Wiccans who have too many Stevie Nicks LPs. There are no rules to paganism, and there are no rules to anarchy. And this has now emerged to an incredible amount of surprise this year in Ireland. It has emerged in a much more solid way here in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland, than it has either in Northern Ireland, the rest of the UK, the other English-speaking countries like Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the United States. And it has emerged here insofar as the alternative conservative media, or some of them wouldn't even, the anarchists that they are, wouldn't even accept that title, what we would most safely call the alternative media here, has, unlike in any of those other countries, has pierced through the matrix of the mainstream media. It was interesting to read yesterday's Sunday papers and to see how the whole tone had changed to a much more smug denial of what has happened. But they cannot turn the clock back. They cannot change what has happened. And John Williams, the head of News and Current Affairs in RTE, interestingly, he took the post in 2016. Leo Varadkar then was handed the post of Taoiseach in 2017. And what was so noticeable was the failure to criticise Varadkar at all. It's still the case. From the moment Varadkar became Taoiseach, and it's still the case, RTE will not criticise him. RTE will not ask any awkward questions. Now, RTE has a very long tradition of not asking awkward questions of people in power. But there were some minor exceptions. Gay Byrne could be very courageous, and he set his own agenda because he was actually the producer of The Late Late Show and his own radio show. Ryan Tubridy, that I wouldn't call it human, who presents The Late Late Show, is not the producer. So Tubridy, rather like Claire Byrne, just reads the script handed to them. But what is so common about the Irish mainstream media, what's so infuriating to an extent, or was so infuriating until this year, is their absolute refusal to question these decrees and thundering facts that are laid down by these so-called experts. Okay, they have a PhD after their name. That doesn't mean they're an expert in anything. I went to university. I got 3 degrees myself. I know what some of the PhD people I met were some of the most learned and interesting people I've ever met, but a lot of them are fucking dullards who had got a PhD. Godden, I mean, look at Eben Joseph. She's a Dr. Eben Joseph. She's a PhD in Christ alone knows what. So there is this slavish devotion in the Irish mainstream media. The Irish Times would actually be the least culpable of. If you take Virgin Media, if you take News Talk, if you take RTE, and you take the Irish Times is the one that still, even today, is the most likely to be somewhat more sceptical or conditional about people with PhDs. RTE, just hand them a red carpet and ask them to say whatever they want. And Virgin Media, although they're supposed to be in opposition to RTE, do the same, as does News Talk. So The real journalism is happening in the alternative scene, and it's happening in the internet. It is an insult, therefore, for John Williams to suggest that people shouldn't trust what's on the internet and that, in fact, they should trust him and trust RTE, where, as has been said on countless other occasions, including by myself, there's plenty of substantial, hard, objective proof that RTE tells lies. I'll give one example. There is a video that you can see on YouTube of Joe Biden. Joe Biden, quite aside from all the stuff that's come out recently about Hunter Biden, it's a much longer known fact that Joe Biden has dementia and that he is deteriorating. He's deteriorated even on the person that he was a year ago, let alone 5 or 10 years ago, particularly during Obama's presidency. There is a video of Biden giving a talk, and it went out live on the internet, and a lot of people captured it, in which he forgets who he is and forgets who his wife is. This is very sad. Anybody who's endured dementia or has a loved one with dementia will know how sad it is to watch a person succumb to the condition. RTE showed an edited version of that video in which all of Biden's mistakes and his idiosyncrasies arising from dementia were cut out. And that video made Biden look like he was somewhat less demented than he actually is. That is one hard, objective evidence of RTE setting out with an agenda to deceive. Because whoever edited that video edited it deliberately. A proper journalist would be emphasizing the fact that the video discloses the fact that Biden has dementia, that he's no longer functioning cognitively to the point where he can recognize his loved ones. That's what the journalists would be going for. That's what would be reported in the newspapers and on the news. Instead, RTE News showed an edited version of that video to make Biden look good. Now, last year I became aware that RTE were doing things like that. This all happened under John Williams, by the way, the news editor of RTE, news and current affairs editor of RTE. So with that in mind, this is why people who are not just going to slavishly have the telly switched on to RTE all day have to go elsewhere to get their news. Those who venture out into social media, there are a lot of tinfoil hatters there are a lot of extremely gullible people there, and there's a lot of rubbish on the internet. But the difference between the internet and RTE is that everything is rubbish on RTE. Whereas you can get some very, very good stuff. Okay, it's amateurishly made, it mightn't have a huge production team, it mightn't have all the money behind it, it might be a guy like me talking into a microphone and putting a slide up in front of it. But it's there, and the people who are making it, if you take myself, I'm not getting paid for this, I'm only doing it because I think it's worthwhile. We're not working for managements, we don't have editors over us, we just put it out on the internet and you can take it or leave it. And that's why the alternative media in Ireland has succeeded so much, because we are anarchists. We're working on our own. We're not following a major narrative. If I wanted to disagree with all of those people who have been calling coronavirus a scam, I could do it now if I want to. I don't. I agree with them. But that's only my subjective opinion. But the people who are listening to this video at the moment know that. So it's a major insult for RTE to come out with this ad. Trust us. I don't know the precise words, but trust us. No, we don't trust you. We don't trust you. But it's positive, and I am an optimist. Because, as I said, the Irish alternative media, and I won't take any credit for it, I'm only in here a wet weekend, I've just walked in the door of that, but the Dave Cullens, the Thomas Sheridans, the Rowan Crofts, the other people in alternative media here who've been around for a very long time have absolutely excelled themselves. They have excelled themselves beyond anything that they could have imagined possible. They have excelled themselves. And they have excelled themselves precisely by being themselves. Not by changing their methods, but by sticking to what they're at. The people who listen to the likes of Rowan Croft, Grant Torino, or Thomas Sheridan, or Dave Cullen under the name Computing Forever, they make their own minds up. And quite often in the comments on YouTube, you will see some ridiculous remarks, and you will see remarks from people who, whether they're far right or far left, are extreme. There are fanatics. So, whatever about the genuine existence of a far right in Ireland, there is always the existence at all times of fanaticism. But grown ups like myself and most of the people who are listening here, and most of the people who follow Thomas Sheridan or Gran Torino, they know that. They know that there are fanatics out there, and they know to filter it out. They know to be wary of fanaticism. It's not as if we're stupid. But that is precisely the assumption that RTE makes, and that is a form, in a way, of projection, because the only stupid ones are RTE.